You ready?
Puto frío.
Literalmente. ¿Pero qué fue? Eso no entendí, pero
No, son las ventanas, o sea, que si estás
okay.
Welcome to another Monday of
No one gets away with anything.
Today with you we are
Jose Rafael Ochoaneri.
and Ariana Lopez.
Very nice.
Amazing. Today we have a topic that we as Latin Americans, we love.
Well, more than we love it, I think it's just part of our identity.
Es intrínseco.
Sí, es algo...
Ingrained.
Iba a decir sine qua non, no sé por qué. Como que,
I don't think that's a word for that.
Me neither, but...
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's called traditions, the values and shortcomings that make us. Yeah, more or less.
For context, basically, Latin Americans find family to be, if not the core, a very important part of their life.
So before we keep going, quick disclaimer, we are not experts in Latin America other than by experience. We are not professionals of any kind, and everything that we say here is just... two friends talking, so take everything we say with a grain of salt. But yes, we as Latin Americans, I think in general, we have a very strong sense of family. Mm-hmm. We are the second most hierarchical society in the world, actually, after the Asians. Like the Asian cultures in general are hierarchical. The Latin Americans are also very, very hierarchical.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with family, traditions, etc.
And basically what Jose and I want to talk about today is how family shapes us and somehow both pushes us and limits us in different ways.
Yeah, and it's very weird because what we decided to do was talk about different... Because every time we try to talk about this, we saw a lot of contradictions. It was like, but your family teaches you love. And it was like, yeah, but your family also like cripples you emotionally sometimes. Mm-hmm. So how do we reconcile this? And so... Yeah, we came up with a system.
We found some different ideas that you'll understand throughout the episode.
Okay, so the first one that we figured out was love. Like your family is, they're the people who show you an example of love. Am I right?
Exactly. And I think both Jose and I have made it
both
clear.
Kenai and I? Brother Bear, I'm Kenai. That would be such an honor.
Both Jose and I have made it clear throughout our episodes that our families are a very important part of our lives, and our family members are key people which we admire, hate, and love very profoundly. Yeah,
so there's nobody who can annoy me faster than my brother and my sister, but there's nobody that I love in the world other than my brother and my sisters. So yeah, definitely.
So yeah. And the contrast of love, on the other hand, is...
Yeah, so confrontation. Mm-hmm. And I think, look, I'm going to go into this from this perspective. My mom and dad were a fairy tale marriage.
Okay.
They were the typical, like, oh my God, they're so perfect together.
Really?
Yeah, I always used to joke, my dad's a plastic surgeon and my mom's a fashion designer. So my dad operates them, my mom closes them, It's like, it was always a perfect pairing. And in many ways, they are very complementary people. But I think one of the biggest things that my parents ever taught me was that my parents got divorced when I was around 11. Mm-hmm. And they both taught me that when things have to end and you've tried everything you can to make them live, it's okay to let them end.
Okay.
Yeah?
I don't know if this is a correct question, but do you think there's something like of their personalities or their dynamics that you believe made them somehow incompatible at some point?
Oh, definitely. But I think that's just...
But do you know what is it?
I'm not... Well, look, the private parts of their relationships of how or not, it has a lot to do with the way that they live their lives. And I think that during the episode, we'll probably explore more of that. And I think that because... And it's weird to talk about your family like this, but it's... I'm talking about me. Mm-hmm. In a way. So you have to talk about your parents to talk about yourself. So that's why the first thing they tell you when you go to the psychologist is like, how are your parents? Like, what's a relationship with them? I feel like, and my parents always told me this, they were like, my dad told me this a lot when he got divorced. He would always tell me, look, your mom's going to live the way she lives and I'm going to live the way I live. It's not that I'm against the way your mom lives and it's not that she's against the way I live. It's that we have different ways of living. Mm-hmm. And look, maybe you decide that you like the way I live. Maybe you decide that you like the way your mom lives. Maybe you decide that you like none of them or both and you find your own way at some point, Mm-hmm. But I think that definitely not only finding out how you want to live as a person in terms of love and confrontation, but how you want to live with another person and have that discussion as well is incredibly important. What about you? What in your life, the love dichotomy, like the love confrontation dichotomy, how does it work in your life?
I think love for me plays a very important role. Like I did for one of my classes like a strengths test, and love was my biggest strengths. Like, and after love came like honesty, whatever, you know. But like I didn't even know love could be a strength.
Yeah,
you know?
Of course it is.
And I definitely believe that that's something that comes from my family. My mom and my dad were both always people who made sure that they let me and my sister know how much they loved us and how proud they were of us. And like how I am now, before I wouldn't really enjoy like hugs and stuff like that. I would really avoid it.
Yeah, and harika.
A lot. But it depended on the people, but overall, like especially with my dad, it's something that's always been there. And a confrontation, really, my family is very pacific in that sense. Like in my house, it was forbidden to speak loud. It was forbidden to insult another person. It was forbidden to like, you know, raise your voice when you fought. Come on. Every time my sister and I, when we were kids, we used to have some sort of fight because of something. My dad would always come and he would be like, stop. And he would mediate the fight. He's like, what's your version of the story? Look at me in the eyes when you tell me about it. What's your version of the story? And the only confrontational like cue I had in my house was when I heard my second name. When they called me Ariana Carolina, I was like, shit, I'm fucked. It's like, this shit cannot go right.
Yeah, isn't that a Latin American cliche? Jose Rafael.
Literal. Como your second name is there for you to be called out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's useless.
Yeah, when it's literally I have a cat now, and we my girlfriend's last name is Stephanie, and my last name is Rafael.
Your second name, not your last.
Sorry,
name.
my second name. And so whenever the cat, like if the cat does something wrong, I call her, you know, Moca Stefania, and whenever the cat does something wrong with her, she calls it Moca Rafaela, which is really funny, but it's true. It's like, it's useful to have it there.
It's like, you don't want to use the last name because it's like way too formal, but only your family uses your second name.
And most people don't know it.
Exactly. Who else is going to know your second name? Your very close friends and your family.
Yeah. And even your friends, like when your close friends even call you out with your last name.
That's really, so it has to be something like...
No, but they do it. Like, Jose Rafael, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So really confrontation for me has always been something very diplomatic. And that's why I have so much trouble with confrontation nowadays.
That's the thing, my family, and it's really funny because my girlfriend didn't have any brothers. She grew up an only child.
As a single child.
Yeah, and like an only child with around very old people, you know, older people. I mean, adults in general. And one of the things is that she doesn't know how to fight, like a tickle fight. Like, it's not even like computable in her head. She has to like. And for me, it's super instinctual. Like, and you can see it with the cat. Like, I play with a cat, and I push it, and it falls to the ground, and then it gets up, and she's looking for me to push her again, so that we can play a little. And I feel like my brothers, since we were 3 in the beginning, now 4, you know, it was, you know, fight for attention. We were 3 brothers, 2 parents. You're not going to have all the attention. I was the most diplomatic one of my brothers in that sense because my little brother got a lot of the attention. My big sister got a lot of the attention. I was the middle child. Like, I was
the cliche.
Yeah, the cliche. But I liked my position. But one thing that we did do a lot was roughhouse. You know, and I would roughhouse with my dad, and we would have, and as we got older, especially, and I've talked about this before.
What is roughhouse?
Roughhousing. Rough play. So especially like children with their parents, especially with like their dad, you kind of fight with your dad.
Okay.
It's not real fighting.
Yeah.
Well, you punch your dad and he throws you in the bed and you're like, and then it's really fun.
Okay. No, I used to do that with my dad too, just I didn't know how to name.
Yeah, it's called roughhousing, and it's really. And you see it at camp. You do it a lot at camp. You know, there's kids that literally need it. Like, it's part of their coping mechanism to deal with the stress of life. Like, they need to, like, play with someone and, like, kind of fight. And you see that, it's like, single child, like, what do you call it?
Only child.
Like, only childs don't know how to do it.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And then one of the things is that when we got older and my mom got cancer after the cancer, we were like, what, 16, 17? We were adults. Like, we could have difficult conversations. And so we weren't, like, we wouldn't shut up. We would have difficult, like, we would make my mom think. And she would be like, damn.
Yeah.
These kids are 17 and they're saying things, and it's like probably contributed to my podcasting future. But yeah, we never shy away from it's not that I don't shy away from confrontation. I know where the limit is, and I'm not afraid to like say something. And even here, when I moved away and with my dad, which is something that changes, the context changes a lot whether you confront people or not.
Sí, total.
Demasiado. Pero una de las cosas que me pasó es que yo me mudé a España, and I never had a problem just sitting my dad down and saying, look, bro, I don't like this, or I do like this, or I understand your position here. It was like, hey, you're fucking up. Look, I don't like what you're doing here. I love you. You're the best, but this is wrong. How about I help you and we fix this together? And I think he was more surprised than my mom because, you know, he hadn't seen us for a while, and he was like, oh my God, they grew up.
Well, like, for example, for me, the confrontational part, it's true that was with my sister was all the time. So anything was a reason to pick up a fight. The fact that I found one of my shirts in her closet, she found one of her shoes in my closet. It's like the fact that I did something in her room and I left the shit there, even if she could do the same thing and I wouldn't get pissed, right? So I think really when you have a sibling, you develop the ability to come up with confrontation out of absolutely nothing.
Nowhere.
And that's on one side is true, but at the same time is what I was saying before. Like with my family, I never actually had any fights, you know? And I feel like nowadays in my relationship that portrays in the sense like every time I feel like someone's mad at me, and it happened also with my mom and my dad, I have the urge to fix it. For me, one of the worst feelings I can possibly have is the sense or the perception that a person that I love is either pissed or sad because of me. You know, I need to fix that because I never had that in my family. And for me, that's a obvious sign of instability, you know? But on the other hand, in terms of love, my mom and my dad taught me that giving love is the outmost way of achieving satisfaction, you know? It's like you give love and you receive love. Like when you love someone, at least for me, seeing them happy, fulfilled, safe, feeling safe because of what you're doing for them is a very good way of finding satisfaction, you know? And I often talk about this with my boyfriend. He says like, because I used to say you need to sacrifice some things when you love, and he's like, yeah, but don't call it sacrifices, you can call it compromises, because it doesn't have to
investments.
Exactly, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. And it's this thing of like, nowadays I genuinely enjoy just doing something for him or for someone in my family just to let them know that I love them, you know, and that I'm going to be there for them. And that, for me, brings so much peace and ease that I am sure it's a lesson that came from my parents.
Awesome. I think I have this thing too. It's just weird. Well, a lot of men have it, which is like, I'm very in touch with my emotions. Mm-hmm. I'm not scared to cry, and I am very good at physical contact with people. But it does happen with my family that I feel sometimes that I can't show everything that I feel. Like sometimes it's like, I want to give you a hug, but I feel like it's weird if I give you a hug because like, why am I showing so much emotion right now? It happens a lot. And I think it's, like my grandfather was really not expressive emotionally with his children from my dad's side. My dad did the opposite. It was like, I need to be super expressive and super...
That was the same thing with my dad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, at least in me, it didn't predispose me not to be, but it also didn't predispose me to be. It was like, depending on the context, I felt free to share. And you know this, like you get to my house and the first thing I do is hug you, and I hug my friends a lot. But when the situation's very emotionally charged, my first reaction isn't to go all huggy-dovey and it's more what Eduardo told us the other day, the very nice, you know, shoulder pat or rub. It like de-escalating the situation. I think is also something that I learned from the type of confrontation in my family. I think it's rather healthy what we had. We did raise our voices more than I think was necessary, but mostly because I think also communication in Latin America is a bit shouty.
High toned.
Yeah, high toned. Like Latins, we speak, and when we're in a group, you can hear us from a mile away. And so my house, since it was 2 floors, my mom would talk to my grandmother from a floor of a difference. So we would shout. I would stay in my room like, Mom, can you get me this? And it would always be like, yes. You know, it was standard practices. And so when you got into a shouting match, it could happen.
And that's very common. In my house, for example, really it was like my dad always let it super clear that no raising the voice. Up until the point that when breakfast was ready, I had to go room by room, breakfast ready, come eat, breakfast ready, come eat, breakfast ready, come eat. And like, in general, come on, that was really not something that you saw in my household. And it comes to the point that my sister nowadays, you raise your voice a bit and she's like, what the fuck, why are you shouting? It's like she gets mad at you because you're raising your voice. And for me, it's this thing, like when I started with my boyfriend, I told him like, look, this is a basic rule. There's no shouting in our relationship.
No shouting.
Shouting. It was so hard to say it. What the fuck? But yeah.
My dad did that later. He said no shouting, and I'm more of a quiet person now. And my mom did too. Like she became a lot less shouty in general. But my brother, my sister, and I don't know so much about my little sister, but my brother, my sister, and I are pretty much quiet people. Except when we're having fun. I mean, we don't fight loudly. We just talk.
Bueno, exacto, pero yo creo que eso pasa todo.
But one thing that did happen today, which was fun, my sister finished listening to the pod, like she binged the podcast, and she called me, and like just by coincidence we were recording, and she was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe like I caught both of you at the same time," and she started giving and I told Ariana like my sister is like the best person at giving criticism. Like it doesn't even feel like criticism. It feels like you got compliments, but it's weird. It's so cool. And that's like the next thing that we were talking about. It was like, support and criticism is something that your family also kind of gives you.
Our second dichotomy is that it's like your family can be both your source of, as Jose said, support, safety, and security, as much as they can be the hardest critics of whatever you do in your life.
And the most honest, probably.
Exactly, because technically they're the people who love you the most and they want for you to succeed the most. And I think you go first and then I'll say.
I do have this thing with support and criticism. A lot of it I did learn from UN, like techniques on how to criticize people in a way that won't hurt them is something that you can learn. But not only the way that you say, but the way that you take criticism is also super indicative of your family. I've realized this, like talking to my girlfriend, that whenever we have a plan, she focuses on the plan and I focus on the exceptions.
How?
So, tell me something you would do in a weekend, a date, for example.
Let's go a picnic to the park.
Okay. Awesome, the picnic in the park. I don't start like that generally. I'm like, oh yeah, but remember it's going to rain. And she's like, but, and I'm like, I'm not saying I disagree. I like the idea, but like, it might rain. Like, what do we do if it rains? What do we do? And she's always like, but why? And it's like, it's part of this criticism thing where I have received criticism so many times in so many different ways that I try to get ahead of it. And so I'm very careful when I plan my things sometimes. Probably not the most healthy thing. And so it's really funny because whenever I do these kind of things, my family is they're the first to stop and say like, hey, it's gonna be fine. And then I forget about it, and then they're like, "Oh, you did this wrong," and I'm like, "Shoot!"
And also, like, when we were speaking with Carmen, Jose was saying like how easy it is for him to find faults in arguments.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Yeah, stop being so annoying, dude." It was like, I mean, you're super smart at everything, but not everybody needs to know about every little fault that you find in everybody's words.
Yeah, because I'm very good at poking holes in arguments. It's fun. It's just fun, and it's useful too. And so with my family, it's really fun because when I was little, I was really good at inventing things, and so I would read stuff, or I was the kind of child that would watch the Discovery Channel all day and like learn a lot of stuff. But like, you're a child, you don't it doesn't imprint properly in your brain, or it's an exaggerated detail of something and you take it as a fact. And so they would be talking about something and I would give a long-winded explanation for like 15 minutes about something that I had no idea about. And they started calling me Harvard University of Jose. Whenever, where do I find that? At Harvard University of Jose. And I was like, oh my God. And then I actually developed the ability to,
properly give criticism
when people were saying things that were not truthful. And so I kind of flipped it, and now they're like, oh, it's annoying. I'm like, you did it to me for years. And it's not an integrated part of who I am, but like suffer because
you have learned to manage it a bit better. I believe.
I think so.
It's very interesting because I feel the complete opposite way. It's like, I don't know if I did not receive enough criticism when I was younger or something, but I cannot deal with it.
Really?
It's super hard. When people give me feedback about the podcast, and every time this happened, it's like I receive feedback. I arrived to Jose's house, and I'm like, I said, this person told me this, and that. We should do this, and that. But when I listen to it, I feel like shit.
I've always had this feeling whenever you told me about feedback, it's dire for you. It's like, oh my God. And it's like, for me, it's like, oh yeah, sure.
No, horrible.
I mean, it's not like Peterson talks a lot about this, which is the ability to
We have to stop quoting Peterson.
I can't.
We have to.
It's useful insight. What am I gonna do?
Fair enough. Go ahead.
It's having the ability to ask stupid questions.
Okay, but what does that have to do?
If you ask a stupid question, you're probably gonna get criticized for it.
But we've talked about this. It's like you ask the stupid question once. And then after that, you learn, and you don't have to ask a stupid question again. You're gonna have to ask other stupid questions, then you're gonna be smarter. But that, it's fine. Like that, I agree. I understand, because I know I've made my therapy. It's like, yeah, that's for my own personal growth. When somebody tells me something about the podcast, it's like, shit, I'm fucking up. Hey, come on, I'm losing my time. I'm doing everything wrong, and nobody likes what I do. That's what's going on in my head.
I don't know if I have become more robust emotionally and I think I know exactly why. Football, for sure.
Okay.
Because I had a hard time.
Okay.
Like I was the kind of guy that they would explain an exercise, and I would ask 4 times, like, but I didn't understand. And I got to a point where I wasn't scared of asking anymore, and I got better at it. Mm-hmm. And they would criticize me. Like, one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had is being a goalkeeper, because they will always score a goal, and it's always going to be your fault. Even if it's not, it's always going to be your fault because you're the goalkeeper, and you take it really to heart. And I think that it's happened to me so times that I've had more than one goal. Like, I've had a terrible mistake that ended in a goal, and then I've had 5 goals scored in me, and I've survived. That criticism, I don't take it emotionally anymore, unless it's emotional criticism.
Okay.
Like, if my girlfriend is saying, hey, you have this really toxic thing that you do whenever we have this, and I really don't like that about you, and I think that we should talk about, like, you should talk with a psychologist about this, which actually has never happened, but hypothetical.
So
Hypothetical.
I was scared. I was like, Jesus.
What is this discovery?
What's going on?
No. Actually, I don't think I've ever had a conversation that, like, my girlfriend is. I don't think she's capable.
She would
of...
never raise her voice like that. Come on, get like so angry. I cannot picture her like that.
No. The most angry she's ever been at me is because I was drunk. Later, we found out I had been spiked, but I was like really, really drunk, and the police almost, like, I almost had a problem with the police because basically I peed in the street. And
but how is it? You told me about it, that you were spiked.
My drink got spiked. I drank one gin and tonic at a discotheque here in Madrid.
Because, like, my boyfriend's been a bit paranoid about it lately.
No, yeah, he should be. I don't drink in discos anymore. Like, and I don't drink I don't drink
shit
in those places anymore. No, and I had a really awful time. Like, I got home, I had to call my dad because I couldn't stop vomiting, and like it had been like 24 hours. I'm like, Dad, I haven't gotten better. I don't know what to eat anymore. And pro tip, if you're nauseous, rice with Parmesan cheese. You have no idea. You have no clue. It settles your freaking stomach like nothing else.
Who would have thought? I thought you were gonna say like plain rice and plain chicken.
No. Rice and Parmesan cheese. At
Can
first,
it be any cheese or it has to be
like
Parmesan?
not Parmesan. Like at first I thought maybe I have something like a parasite, or my dad knows that like somebody spiked me, because at that point we had figured something like that, and maybe at this point it's my dad wanting me to puke on purpose, like to clean myself of whatever, because it smelled awful, and I was
Really?
like, I have to trust him. And he's the kind of person, because he's a doctor and he knows about, you know, the expectations of pain. If you expect pain, it'll be worse. He's the kind of person that he would reset my wrist if I ever got it, and he would do like this on the count of 3, 1, and I'm like, oh my god, my wrist. But if I had waited for 3, it probably would have been worse. So it's the kind of thing that he would have done, like not tell me. And then I was like, oh my god, this is gonna kill me. And then I ate it, and then I got like 90% better in like 10 minutes. It was crazy.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So emotional criticism. Yeah. If it's something emotional like that, I do take a step back, and or if it's something I'm really invested in, like I'm invested in the podcast and like a podcaster, like I don't know. Jordan Peterson comes by and tells me like, hey bro, your podcast could use some bettering. I'm gonna be like, oh damn.
Okay.
But it's not everybody.
But it's true. So the thing is, I have a toxic relationship with criticism, because on one hand, I understand it's the only thing that's going to make us improve. And I very much appreciate it. Like, I want people to tell me what's wrong. And that's why I ask Carmen, like, what's your feedback? I want to know what you think. I want to know what you perceive. And when people also tell me they liked, I don't believe.
Really?
Like, when it comes to the podcast, it's honestly, for me, it's super hard.
Well, we were talking about... Sorry, we were talking with Carmen about this too, that there's a lot of people who are very camera shy. And so one of the things that comes with camera shyness, and it comes even if you are willing to appear in the podcast, is I never want to believe I'm actually that good.
Right. Maybe. Yeah.
Or that, like, if somebody said, like, oh my God, I love the video. I love to see you guys and how you interact. And you have such good, like, remember what happened with my mom's friends? They're like, they have such a good voice. And I'm like, okay, apparently I have a good voice. Or I like to sing, but I've never thought of myself as a singer or a person who has a good singing voice. And my friends have consistently, for the past 2 years, told me, you sing very well. And I'm like,
how?
I
Who
do
told
not
you that?
know. No. You must have the wrong Jose.
You cannot be right. Yeah, it's like, first, who told you that you should be talking for a full hour, put yourself on YouTube, and expect people to watch you and enjoy for the full hour what you're saying?
Like, well, we have established this. I'm emotionally crippled and need the attention. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like everything related to podcasting, como views, feedback, like what I perceive, the comments, whatever. It's like really, it gets to me.
And I think we haven't had no negative comments.
Not negative because nobody's been like, yeah, you do shit, but it's like,
we have had nobody come into the comments like, you're shit, shut up. Like, no,
because you're not that famous yet.
Like, it'll comment, I guess. But my point is, like, everybody who's, even people we don't know, have been super kind and just said, like,
hey, I really like what you do.
We like what you're doing. Oh, you could fix this because, you know, it was really hard to find your podcast or something.
Exactly.
And those things have happened. And I think that look, I understand.
Gracias, Osvaldo.
You see, our support systems can cuddle us too much, and then you become dependent on support, and criticism never gets to you properly.
What I was gonna get to is that my mom is the teddy bear type of mom. You know, she's always been super proud of me. She's always been there for me. She's always been impressed by everything I do. Like, academically wise, my mom has always, like, she's rarely ever has any criticism. My dad's a different story, but I think I relied more on my mom because it was way more comfortable. Because she was always proud.
Like, if you ever disappointed your mom academically, it was like, damn.
Yeah, but my mom could be disappointed with other stuff. Like, let's say I had a friend she didn't like, she would be the first one to tell me, come on, I don't like the vibe. You know what I mean? With that, she wouldn't be, like, as
subtle.
person.
Yeah.
Exactly. But when it came to academic stuff, my mom was always like super proud of everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I took that for granted. Like, and also my teachers, we've talked about this. I used to be a very good people pleaser. You know, didn't get much criticism for that.
Yeah.
Except for my sister who was like, what the fuck are you doing with your life? You don't know who you are and just pleasing people. And I would be like, shut up. You don't know what you're saying.
That's so 10 things I hate about you. But switched around, the older sister.
But yeah, like, and I owe her because she was absolutely right. So now that my mom is not always there and my mom doesn't know everything that's going on, nobody's gonna come and give me that. Only me.
Yeah.
And me knows that that's not true all the time.
Yeah, me knows.
Me knows. And my boyfriend is actually very harsh with those things. He'll be like, yeah, but what about this? You haven't done this. You know that. And like, he's always gonna tell me like, I'm proud of you. But it's not like my mom that would send me like a huge paragraph with like 100 caps and 100 hearts. You know?
Nothing like
and
unconditional mom
love. I'm not expecting
love.
the same thing because honestly, like, feedback is good. It's just that I haven't learned how to deal with it. But I love to give it. Toxic trait of mine. It's like, yeah, an MUN dude. Amazing speech, but I think you could do this better. It's like, who the fuck you think you are?
Like, how do you know what a good 45...
Then I think to myself, like, why do people listen to you?
But I have a question. I have a question, though, especially at MUN. You've given the perfect speech.
Yeah. Long time ago, I think, but yes.
How do you know?
Well, because you have your own credit. I don't know. People loved it.
Yeah, people loved it.
I loved it.
Did everybody tell you, like, every single person there came up to you and said they loved it? Did somebody tell you criticism about your speech?
No.
Okay, then, like, why didn't you apply that to the rest of your life? Like, that sense of fulfillment that you know you got the speech down at exactly 45 seconds. You yielded the time perfectly back to the chair. You said exactly what you need to said. And you say you did everything freaking right. You know that you did it right. So, like, you can add a little bit of that sense of self-worth into every moment. I think that's exactly what you're telling me. It's like you've learned that without your mom, you have to find those moments of self-worth in your life.
But also, the one thing about MUN is that you have a criteria that you have to fulfill.
And you don't have that in life?
It's not given.
It's found.
It's found. But for example, let's go back. Podcasting. Who tells you you're doing it right?
Well, it depends. Part of it is exposure, for sure.
Yeah, but like, you know, for us, 100 views is a lot. But does that mean we're doing it right or could we be doing it better? Like, there's people who get 1,000 views. There's people who get 30,000 views. There's people who get a million views. You know what I mean?
I was teaching my students the other day about multiple choice tests, and I was telling them, look, there's answer B and D. You know, multiple choice tests. You have 4 options. 2 of them are obviously wrong, and you always know this. And then there's like B and D, and B and D are practically the same, and you don't know how to tell them apart. And then you don't know the answer, and it's like you already did the most difficult part. You know what the answer isn't. We know that a podcast isn't, you know, I don't know, bad audio and bad video coupled with bad design and bad advertisement.
But do we have a good design? Do we have good audio? Do we have a good video?
Do we have... No, the question is, do we have bad audio? No, we have good microphones. And they work pretty well. And when we record with proper audio, it feels amazing. Not only that, then do we have good video? I mean, we have as good a video as we can have at the moment. Do we have good advertisement? We bust our asses doing it. Like, are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? If you're not doing it wrong, then you're closer to right than you were the other day.
Okay.
So it's a trick, but then the chances of you being wrong, if there's 4 options, you discarded the 2 obvious wrong ones, it's 50-50.
Fair enough. But for example, let's say we have a week where we don't post as much in Insta, or I take longer to post the things of the episode. I feel like shit.
That's absolutely normal.
Yeah, but like super shit. And I have this avoiding tendency. It's like, you know, when you do something wrong, you don't want to go back to it because you feel like you're going to do it wrong again.
Yeah.
Well, it's that.
Yeah, but look, I understand that. But if that was the case, I would have stopped goalkeeping the day that they scored. I think it was 12 goals against me. Like, I would have. If I've realized something, and I think that the beautiful thing about our podcast isn't so much that we have good conversations, because we do. We have an ability to converse with each other, which is great. We are 2 MUN people that have
honestly, like the bullshit.
Yeah, it's like we were telling our sister, you know, we don't know we pull this stuff out of our asses every week, but we do. I think the most beautiful thing about our podcast is that you look down the feed and you're like, Oh, this has been an organic growth. It has been little by little. It has been recording at at Retiro, and then
listening to the audio and being like, what the fuck is this? We cannot use this for anything.
How many episodes have we recorded that have never come out because they're just unlistenable, or recording 45 minutes of an episode and being like, oops, a microphone didn't record. Like, all of that is shown, and I think that's the magic that makes our podcast. And I think I'm going to go into the last thing that we were going to discuss today and our conclusion, which was how present and absent your family is, how much loneliness you feel after you are older because of the perpetual presence or absence of your family. I don't know if you have anything to add. I will say I had my mom during my adolescent years, and I didn't have my dad, and now I have my dad and I don't have my mom. And I've had absence of my brothers in different sides of it, and I think there's definitely upsides to having absent parts of your family, because you appreciate them more and you learn to value them, which is what you were saying right now about missing your mom in the criticism part and the the support. But damn, if I miss my family more, I mean every day,
Absolutely. And what I have to say about this is that really I was very lucky with the family that I got, in the sense of like, they are extremely loving and extremely present. I have never felt in my life that somebody's not there for me. If it's not my mom, it's my dad. If it's not my dad, it's my sister. If it's not my sister, it's my grandma. If it's not my grandma, it's my cousins. Like, not only is it big, it's good.
Yeah.
And I think you relate also. Like, we also have big families, and we also have very good friends. But that's not the case. So that's not the point.
We're amazing.
Where are we going?
We are incredible.
And even when I was here, like, I really think that the love that I hold for my grandma is the most pure and genuine form of love. And the way that she loves me is something that I feel like I don't deserve sometimes. It's like, she's going to text me every morning. She's going to text me every night. Before I wake up, before I go to sleep, she's going to ask me if everything's all right. On my birthday, she came over to just hand in a bouquet of flowers. She spent the whole day cooking for me because she knows that I don't have my family here. And she wants me to have the best birthday I can possibly have, right? She's always going to be the one who's like trying to help me out, paying attention to me, looking at what I need. Really, like, the amount of love that she's able to give me is something that often I cannot comprehend or understand why, like why.
Yeah.
And in that sense, like, I've always felt like my family is very present, and my fight has actually been like how to survive on my own.
Yeah, definitely.
But I also know a lot of people who it's been the other way around. It's like, perhaps when they were smaller, they feel like their parents were not there as much, and like they had to figure it out on their own. I have very, very good friends that are like twins, and their parents have always been there, but it's been like a complicated situation,
Yeah.
And I feel like for them, it's going to be a different thing. It's like when they grow up, how do you build a family when you grew up feeling like you had to figure everything out on your own,
Well, this is the thing. So the reason why there are dichotomies is because there's no right answer. You need criticism, you need love, you need support, you need confrontation, you need a present family, but also an absent family. Mm-hmm. There's a quote that says, every good mother has to fail in the end. Because a mother needs to let her child fail. Mm-hmm. And in some sense, it's a failure. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something intrinsic about who we are as human beings, that we have to have this balance. And I think that what makes us who we are is choosing your own setting in each of those dichotomies, and then later you create your own set of values.
Exactly.
And your shortcomings. With that, we say
that we have to remember that nobody
gets away
with anything.
Thank you very much.
See you next Monday.
See you next Monday. Bye.